Legends never die. Hairless, legends never die.
Sorry, my eyes are watering up. Yes, so Hairless here. Today we're back with the Patreon request. Thank you to Lupe for this one. This is Forestella and the song is called Legends Never Die. This is a cover of the opening theme for the World Championship tournaments of a video game called League of Legends. I never played that game. I think some of my friends at university did. I remember hearing about it. I used to play different games. The gaming world is massive. It's grown so much. Esports is a multi-billion-dollar industry. These World Championship tournaments, depending on the game, the prize money is in the millions of dollars. Anyway, so I went and listened to the original song, and by the sounds of it, League of Legends sounds like a futuristic game. Don't ask me why or how, but different types of games tend to have different types of music in the soundtrack. I always thought League of Legends was set in the medieval times. I never actually looked into it until now. Maybe it is set in those times. I just had a quick Google and there was no clear answer. Anyway, the original song, I quite like it. It has retro wave-y elements. Here's a clip of a song based on a virtual reality game from a film, Ready Player One, if you've seen it. So we can see similarities in the style of music. I would call this music sort of inspirational, like it's gearing you up to go on an adventure, which in these games is probably what happens, loads of adventures. Overall, it's an interesting song and I'm very curious to see what Forestella do with it.
Legends never die. When the world is calling you, can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die. They become a part of you. Every time you leave for reaching greatness, then please you survive. Never lose hope when everything is cold and the fire is near. It's deep in their bones, they're running to the smoke when the fire is fierce. Oh, pick yourself focused. Legends never die. When the world is calling you, can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die. They become a part of you. Every time you bleed for reaching greatness, legends never die.
I don't know if you can see, my eyes are watering up. It's giving me goosebumps, like when I listen to them singing Je suis malade. Oh, wow. They are so well suited for this song and this arrangement. It's crazy. I also wanted to check the signs at the beginning again. So we have Forestella, Evolution, Utopia. What's the bottom one? Is that World Fire? Or World Free? Oh, World Tree, like we saw in Save Our Lives and Utopia. Please check out my reaction to those songs, especially Utopia. That's, I think, my favourite Forestella performance I've seen so far. Okay, first pause here. We're going to go over the analysis of what we've heard. If you don't want to hear my analysis, go to the timestamp. They are performing this in a different key to the original song. They've kept the same opening, but in a different key. We've gone from here to here. So Forestella are performing a major third down. Let's listen to the vocal entries as comparison.
Legends never die.
Legends never die.
Kowu Rim enters, he is their bass.
When the world is calling you, can you hear
He goes down to a bottom C. He doesn't quite get there, but I like this sound. It's a raw sound. We have an exposed bass singer, so obviously things are meant to sound low at this point. And starting low means that you can grow later on by moving up in pitch. When the vocals start, interestingly, Forestella keep this opening motif. on top of the syncopated piano chords. In the original, when the vocals come in,
Legends never die. When the
it's just the syncopated piano chords, not that higher part. That higher part is rhythmic, it's very structured and very standard. These standard rhythms contrast the alternatively rhythmic piano chords. So by having both, Forestella's version is a bit more rhythmically energized, shall we say, as there's no beat elsewhere. Forestella's entry as well, it seems a bit calmer. The original has these additional vocals that sound quite mystical and a kind of growing sound. Did you hear that? Forestella don't include these. As far as the differences or similarities between the original and Forestella go, I'll probably stop here. Forestella then break out into harmony, do their own thing. So, what do they do? I love this harmony entry, I can't stress enough. The airy voices that they're using.
Legends never die.
And it's Kang Hyung-ho, him there on the stairs, he's their countertenor, that I love the most. He just has one note. There's no vibrato in his voice, no wobbles, he's singing with a straight tone. He doesn't move either, his note is this, as the harmony around him changes from to... I love the sound Forestella create with this entry. It almost sounds robotic, but with so much soul and feeling. His note here, this one. As I showed at the start, this piece is in the key of C, so it's the root note. We hear it constantly in the background instrumentation as well. It never moves, it's like an inverted drone that you normally hear at the bottom of everything. So by repeating this as the harmony changes, it stresses different parts of each chord. For example, in the chord of F minor, it's the fifth note, but in the chord of C, it's the root note. And it also causes dissonance because we hear four chords repeated, and in one of these chords, C doesn't belong, which is this chord. And then when you have the C in it, it creates this nice scrunchy dissonance. Then on the repeat of the verse, we get a bit of a change. You'll notice everything moves up. And I really love this because it's quite difficult to exactly say who's singing which part. I'll run you through my process. If it's not obvious, just listen a couple of times and build up what you hear to create the chord. So we've got... Then there's that repeated note that we were just talking about, which is this one. Because it's being played in the instruments, it's difficult to hear if someone is singing it. And as for the top parts, it could be either of Kang Hyung-ho, the countertenor, or the tenor, Cho Ming-yu. Forestella are just so versatile, it's sometimes tricky to hear who's singing which part. To me though, right now, it does sound like the tenor is singing that repeated C. We can hear some vibrato coming through at the end. So that would mean that really high part that we hear, that's nearly as high as a chorister is expected to sing, it's very high, is in the backing track. And as we can see by the video, the countertenor is not singing that there. It's fun figuring out this stuff, well, for me anyway. Apologies that you have to sit there through it with me. Alright, so moving on. There's a nice structure here, a nice handover between the parts. We start with the baritone, or bari-tenor as I call him, a mixture of baritone and tenor because his range is so big. Then to the countertenor.
It's cold and the fire is near. It's licking their bones.
Who does sing the high bit, and then to the tenor and the bass together. I don't know why, but when the countertenor sings, it sounds like two voices. Anyway, it's so easy for him. And just after that, so easy, and this time in his chest voice, that is nearing the top of a tenor's expected range. This guy, he's so versatile, I say in every video. Alright, this bit, the main chorus, before we watch it, shout out to the production team as well.
Legends never die when the world is calling you.
The lighting, the lasers, the fire, the positioning, the set, the outfits, all so cool. I like how they've not moved either. They've all stayed rooted to their one position. And in terms of harmony, just to show you what we're hearing on Legends Never.
Legends never.
Because Forestella do something interesting with the voicing. The bass goes, the baritone the countertenor in his rock chest voice. So these are the starting notes. Now the tenor, we'd expect him to be in between the baritone and the countertenor in terms of ranges. But no, look how close those two parts are to each other. So the tenor, he's now here. So the chords together are these. And that's the chord on V of never. The baritone staying on this F causes a suspension, which then resolves to a nice C major root chord on die. And again, that root note C, we get it, but now up the octave like a laser. Alright, let's carry on from where they pulled back. Such nice tight harmony.
But you never see the rising cause the skies collected all their life. When everything's lost, they pick up their hearts and a past defeat. Before it all starts, they suffer through harm just to touch a dream. Oh, pick yourself up, cause they just never die. When the world is calling you, can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die. They become a part of you. Every time you plead for reaching greatness, legends never die. When the world is calling out your name, begging you to fight. Oh, 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 oh,
Cool guitar effects.
Legends never die.
Sorry. Before it carries on, we have to pause here. Copyright will probably be very strict. This show usually is, so this will help. Don't worry, when we continue, I'll rewind a bit so we get to see that again. Yeah, it's really great, isn't it? Really great. All right, let's rewind a bit. From where we carried on, when the other parts come in for the harmony, I love what they do. They swell into each note and then come off.
But you never see the rising cause.
See the... Each short note is its own journey of growth before cutting off and then restarting. So we have breaths in between the notes and therefore a breathy sound. Each note itself is also sung with a breathy voice. Overall, I love the effect it creates. These are the real attention to details. Also, it's quite difficult to do. This is actually the only kind of off note I've heard so far. If we listen to the baritone, he's singing this. But the last note, he kind of rises up above it. Now, I'm not saying this to critique Forestella. In fact, it's a good thing. It shows it's a live performance and it's real. They never put a foot wrong, it seems. So this tiny moment of realism, because they're so good, they're basically not real. This is a welcome moment. All right, so they finally move from their starting positions. And that's when the harmony changes as well. See what I mean about him sounding like two voices? There must be a bit of extra reverb in his mic or something. Anyway, his notes here are interesting because instead of singing the same notes as the really high bit which we just had, so instead of G to C, we now get G sharp to G. If we move them into the same octave and play them together, that would be... Which shows in music how you can have two lines that work individually, but they won't always work when they're played together. Back to that repeated note, again up the octave. This time it sounds a little different to me. To me it sounds a bit like Bae Do Hoon, the baritone, singing in falsetto. Am I going mad? These two, the bass and the baritone, they're not standing next to each other. But now they are. How does this work? Is this two images they've put together in the post editing, or have they done another take and used that footage? That's really interesting. Okay, sorry. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, that top C, it sounds a bit different.
Legends never die.
If we compare to when we heard it earlier,
Legends never die.
that sounds like a bit more of a pure sound, but only Forestella will know. But again, that's just what I love about them. Their blend is so good, they're all so versatile. It's a real challenge deciphering them and saying concretely who is singing which part, which often isn't the group with other groups who sing in multiple harmonies, such as the a cappella groups Pentatonic's Home Free Voice Play. You can check out all of my a cappella reactions in my dedicated playlist up here. Yeah, I love it with Forestella, it keeps me guessing. Well, actually, it does look like it's Kang Kyung-ho singing this because then he comes in. But yeah, my point still stands. My first reaction to them, which was Scarborough Fair, it baffled me for this exact reason. I was really struggling to figure out who's singing which part. And I knew from that moment that I loved these guys. If you want to see that, my first time ever hearing them, card for that will be up here. And just one final thing before we carry on the point of how versatile they are. I'm going to play the melody here and notice it is this. So 3 consecutive downward notes. That top note, by the way, that's what I call the wow operatic tenor moment. It's only sung once at the top. That's the baritone singing that in a kind of blended head voice, and then he switches to chest voice for, which is really the upper tenor range. It's mad. But then the next time we have this same melody, which is now the countertenor, who's a rock singer. Notice now the melody is, so they do repeat that top note. It's ridiculously high, but it's just so easy for him. So the melody down is now offset by 1 note instead of, it's. So we arrive here on the 4th note instead of the 3rd. Okay, let's carry on from where we left off. It was that changed moment. They all moved back to their starting positions.
Legends never die. Screaming alternate. Legends never die. They become a part of you. Every time you plead for reaching greatness. Legends never when the world is calling you, can you hear them screaming out your name?
Nice ending, going back to the bass and then finishing with just the syncopated piano part without the part that we spoke about that they included in the beginning, but the original didn't. I mean, that last section, wow. Wow, wow, wow. We can hear the power in their voices. Their different training in backgrounds, operatic, classical or rock or musical theatre, sheer power. And because of this power, it's a little difficult to hear the parts because the blend is so good and strong. So I'll show you from the top to bottom again the chords. So the first chord, and then the second chord, it's the 2 inner parts sliding up chromatically. I just love that chromatic inflection. Oh, he's so good. They're all so good. And just a huge ending, completely contrasting the dropout to just the bass. Unusual for me, but I'm not going to talk about the ending until the bass part. I'm just going to play it. I just want to hear it again, and we can listen together. Nice minor change. Oh. Look, I'm going to leave it there. I'm done. I've said everything I want to say. Really, really, really good performance. I love Forestella. This is up there with one of my favourites. Thanks again for this request, and thanks to everyone for watching as always. Would appreciate a like and subscribe. If you enjoy my content, would like to support me and get access to exclusive perks, you can do so by joining the Patreon linked on the screen now, and I will see you next time.